can say on the record that he tried, that his memo speaks for itself, and that for some reason I cannot explain other than a lack of proportionality, the Southern District of New York prosecutors wanted to throw the maximum book and ignore Mr. Mueller and the stakes of the Mueller investigation, looking at their own backyard. I don't question their sincerity, I question their judgment.
Lanny Davis, as always, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see...
Oh. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. Welcome back to the hashtag Baby Jesus channel, or whatever the fucking kids are calling it these days, where I have been spending just as much time as I possibly can making a corporate plan here. Oh, I need to call up the governor of Louisiana and be like, hey, I have a plan to bring $110 billion a year to Louisiana. Anybody want to get off their fucking asses and help? You would think, you know. See, how many different industries did we count? How many $1-million corporations here? Let's see here. Make sure I don't get my logos on the screen. Can't see it. Parent and 2 subsidiaries. And this is not including a bunch of different smaller companies and charities that I'm gonna have to track down old friends to get to. I have one person with a skill set here and there for each one of these damn things. $13 companies that are all going to be based here in Louisiana. Market timing advantage, why the time is now for this whole plan. Oh look, more $1-billion inventions. $1-billion inventions. $1-billion inventions. Initial investment cost, surprisingly low. Shockingly low. Let's see. 226 plus 144,000. That's 370,000. To be able to make 800 grand a year, just for starters. So, like, I'll be able to buy equipment, obsolete equipment. I mean, if I can find, you know, where they buy the new equipment, I'll have some of that made. But otherwise, you know, purchasing equipment a generation behind. Just, you know, use the fact that compared to me, most people are orangutans. I mean, excuse me, most smart people are orangutans compared to me. Something I'm not entirely comfortable with, but it becomes apparent when you see what the fuck I'm capable of. So I have to try to use whatever the hell curse this is of mine to fix all the shit that you monkeys have thrown on each other. Now, when it all comes down to it, we'll just talk about intelligence itself. Intelligence isn't some sort of gift. Like your parents are better than other people's parents, so you got smarter. No. It's about giving a shit. There are some people who've been subscribers to this channel, whose perception ability, whose IQ have increased as a result of them subscribing to this channel. That's because for their entire lives, whether or not a particular subject was something they excelled in, you know, like I wasn't that fucking good in math. I was better than most people. But like when it came to like the geeks, I wasn't as good as those fucking just geeks, you know? But it's about caring enough to get your head out of your ass. So basically, the further your head is out of your ass, the more you can see anything but how full of shit you are. And the less crusted in bullshit that your eyelids and your brain are, the higher your IQ. Now, if your daddy is your uncle, I can't help you. If Uncle Daddy wasn't a real winner, you might be a couple fries short of a Happy Meal yourself, so. There are exceptions. But for people who can chew gum and fucking walk at the same time, you know, it really is a matter of not just like how much you care now, okay, but how much you cared your whole life. Cut it out. Like literally, what makes someone developmentally smart is whether or not they have the ambition or the responsibility to develop their intelligence. See, me, I always lacked ambition. That's why I'm, you know, fucking pushing 40 years old and finally planning out what I should have done 20 years ago. But I was busy working at a grocery store, because that was worth my time. Society is broken if someone fucking breaks records on their IQ test and winds up at a grocery store when they're 17. Okay? Your fucking society's broken. Frankly, that wouldn't have happened under communism. You know? Just because we're a free society, just because we're capitalist, doesn't mean we should be functionally incompetent. And what it comes down to is, you know, even if I have to make a fucking a charity, a foundation that's just like responsible for this, because nobody else will fucking bother. No one in high school making straight A's should be homeless. Okay? Yeah. There should be no mothers or left alone to struggle with drug addiction because they had some fucking guy beat the shit out of them and got addicted trying to stay with them. There should be no veterans homeless because they couldn't find work when they got back, or homeless because they got injured. Your nation deserves to fall when you let that happen. Okay? When you're talking about going to war against the Horde, you're talking about going to war against satanic occultists. Okay? And they're very weird about what motivates them. They need you to do things that they wouldn't. And then they see you as nothing but meat waiting to be killed. And that's how they see us right now. Blame them? I hardly can. It's what they do. What we've been doing since the 90s, this is not what we do. What we wound up doing after the Civil War, the political waves of bullshit, that's not what we do. You got about 300 years of, let's just face it, nobody really knows what happened. And then, around the time of Da Vinci and Nostradamus, whoever those crazy guys were, you have, and we're talking 500 years ago when people could write, still somehow. From that point, and even at that point, during that whole time period, we have a lot of stuff written down. We still have no fucking idea we still have no idea of what actually went on. We still don't know the whys. We know the history. Well, history, like any other lie told by a serpent. Sounds like nothing but hiss to me. You know, I think I read in the Archie comic books, like the boo hiss, as like somebody saying the words boo hiss. So then when I was little and I didn't like something, I actually said boo hiss. Anyway. Let's talk about statistics for a second. Let's just talk about pure mathematical likelihoods for a second. Before I get too much into a historical type side of a lecture here, I'm going to draw a timeline And I just want to point out some unlikely lineups, some unlikely coincidences that you would think more people would talk about because of how much they stand out. Now, give me a second. I'm just gonna make a little timeline on my sketchbook here. Let's see. First we go to 30 BC and 30 AD. And we have Caesar and Jesus. Then we have the conflicting unknown, really, like we have stories. We have other stories. We have another story that we think might be fake. Because, you know, people like to take ownership and claim to be the singular authority on something, and they have to have more information than other people to do so. So somebody came out with this other thing of where Nostradamus was supposedly buried, and I don't know. I think that might have been Nostradamus's plagiarizer. And perhaps Nostradamus had left that area before the publishings were even done. But what do I know? It's not like I could possibly be some extremely anomalous soul that's been reincarnated again in this time of severe need. It's the same exact type of need, the same exact type of scenario. And basically, if I'm not him, he's late. Just saying. And I've never been one to try to criticize God, but I don't think tardiness is really like on the list of things that God would be bad at, you know. Oh shit. The apocalypse. I forgot to set my alarm. You know, like I don't know. Why didn't somebody tell me the world was gonna end? I stayed up all night watching Netflix. No, it's just, I don't. God's all hungover. Shit, I don't even remember getting home last night. Anybody see my car keys? Dude, where's my car? Did Jesus drive me home? I think Putin has once again intervened personally with the particular level of fuckery on my channel. It seems as though if I make my shadow troll monitor laugh, they're somehow able to know this, and when my comedy is actually good enough to get to you, he cuts my stream, or a computer recognizing the laughter cuts it. So apparently whenever I tell a joke good enough to make my my friend who doesn't show up as a person on the count, yeah, I know you're there, hi, but because you laughed out loud just now, yes you did, I know, the stream was interrupted. But that's because, you know, once the matrix starts to lose its grip on you, you start to realize that if this asshole was either a Satanist or some crazy fuck who'd be stupid enough to mistake themselves for Jesus, you'd have probably picked up on it by now. But alas, well, it's just that people had no idea what to expect, because for some reason, them raising their standard on what I would need to be helped them lower their standard for their expectations of themselves. That is to say that being so perfect that your shit doesn't stink is an unattainable goal. Having convinced themselves that that was somehow the goal, they gave up trying. Anyways. So, 30, 30. You'd have to have some really good sight to see 30-30. Mm-mm. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well here for having no viewers and a migraine headache. How about that shit? Walter Cronkite, eat your fucking heart out. Oh, shit. I forgot he was dead. I can't call out dead people without them coming to fuck with me. What's with the sparkles? What are you, Clarissa? All right, Walter, the teenage witch. Walter Cronkite's so fucking old, his ghost appears as a teenage boy, but still in black and white. Hilarious. He's wearing swimming trunks too. That I don't get. Oh, you're making fun of me. Okay, I get it. I'm writing this timeline next to a place where I have some random notes for stand-up comedy type stories. My wife bought me a pack of colored underwear. And they, let's just say they're special. And there's not enough room for my balls in them. Okay. Like seriously, I feel like I'm being searched by a fucking fat lady cop. I'm like, can you stop squeezing quite so firmly there? Ain't nothing but some olives at the end of a cocktail. What? Thought I was losing my mind. Turned out I just lost my pencil. There it is. Okay. All right, so 30-30. And then we have 15-60. I wish Conway was here or somebody. Hey, shadow person, can you Google something for me? Or like come back in a little fake account in like an innocuous amount of time, and then offer to search something for me. Sure. Anyways, how about them Saints? I was walking to the house one day and I stepped into some dog shit, bullshit, who's shit, parrot shit. I was walking through the house one day and I stepped into some parrot shit, bullshit, who's shit, monkey shit. Skinhead drinking game. It's called bullshit. I was walking through the park one day, or I was walking through the house one day. And you have to come up with a different animal's type of shit. Or, I don't know, something. Take a shot, I don't know. It's been 20, 30, oh God. I hate things that have been almost 30 years ago, because that's, like, I wasn't in diapers because I'm not 30. You know? It's too long ago to have been, like, carrying a gun and shit, like, Not a water gun, like like an actual gun, like such that can be used to defend against a potential grizzly. Wonder boy, what is the secret of your power? Wonder boy, won't you take me far away from the mucky muck? Don Lemon, BR represent, calling out Trump for lying to troops' faces. Good for you, old Donny boy. Anyways, so 96 to 99. Oh, fuck, it's raining again. Nice. Alright, so Fox News and Ken Starr simultaneously launch. One, a national news network. One, basically a fucking henchman of communist China, whether he knew it or not. But let's just move on. Then you have Lewinsky, Fox News, and Ken Starr's after Clinton on some Chinese fucking dossier, basically. A dodgy Chinese dossier. Ken Starr. Whitewater. Chinese money in a hotel that happened to be owned by the Clintons. Supposedly. Not actually found guilty of anything, but then Fox News came about, and then Lewinsky. So after all that time with basically people being politically apt to get him, Bill Clinton goes and sticks his dick in a little Russian girl right after the Cold War ended. Because Bill Clinton's stupid, right? Please. Never fucking happened. And all the little lies and things like that, if you look at them, they're all the result of this bullshit assumption that the Cold War had ended. And Fox News, in its so-called self-professed conservatism voice, they were supposed to be the hawks, and they were saying the Cold War ended. So you can bet your ass all the fucking war-hating liberals who wanted to fucking end the military budget, basically, you could bet your ass they would be willing to go along with it at the time. So if you said, like, the fucking Soviets were plotting against us back then, you'd been called paranoid. If your name was Kennedy, you'd have gotten shot. But that was 30 years earlier. I tell you what, I look at the late 90s and I see the downfall of America. Yeah? Who in all of time since then has equated to either of those men? Who, according to certain interpretations of Gnostic texts, may have been the same man. The old father and the young one. Caesar and Caesarion. His son with the daughter of the goddess, Cleopatra. Cleo Tot Ra. Lady of the Father of God. That's all that means. Concubine. That guy, it's always seemed obvious. Like I used to think maybe because of the whole South of France thing, he might have been my cousin or something. But then I was realizing earlier, my prophetic ability is very similar to Nostradamus's. And I forgot how we came up in conversation, but I was like, you know, I bet you he died supposedly right around the time that I died. And I looked it up. Sure enough. 1558 to 1566. With a particular narrowed down date of June 6th or something like that, 1566. Based on a letter. I remember seeing a documentary about that. I'd only just read the date just now, though. Anyways. Wave of tired coming from thinking about that. So yeah. When I feel a massive draining come from being onto something, it's usually an indication that I'm onto something. So. In all that time, name one person who's on that level of name recognition. You think anybody knows who Oliver Cromwell is, or Pope Benedict, or Muhammad? Yeah, don't forget about Muhammad. Oh, I'm sorry. What was it? 680? Yeah, yeah. And how old would somebody be in that area when they first, become a man? They'd be 13 or 14. So you'd have the time of his manhood would be 679. Just saying. This was a prophecy, and this destroyed the world. 1,000 years. That was prophesied then. Okay? 420 years later. And you have 1984-ish. Okay? Then you have a bizarre series of events. You have Trump and Russia. Trump and the Russian mob. You have the start of the big fake news campaign that would ultimately become internet trolling. And I mean, not the start of it, but the start of us actually fighting back to it, okay? We started fighting back. This is when Reagan said, we're going to just basically debunk the shit. Then you had the Cold War. Sorry, my fingernails are fucking... Oh, there's a cleanish fingernail. I'll use that finger instead. That's what he said. Then you have the Cold War, supposedly come to an end. There's a whole lot of interesting events that make this period between 84 and 96 very weird. I mean, just it reads like some sort of prequel to 1984. I mean, the way our television and everything else, I mean, MTV and fucking sci-fi and comedy and everything just took a weird turn. An anti-religious turn in a lot of ways. And in many more ways, there was a concerted effort to make people paranoid of their government. Yet at the same time, there's this weird, constant reinforcing of the investigative process in a way that really seems to have helped, like, Trump sit there and bitch about technicalities and stuff. People used to have standards. Now they're looking for fucking nuanced legal arguments. So then you have this very, very condensed time period of very, very significant things. Fox News created. Ken Starr's Whitewater inquiry. Then Monica Lewinsky supposedly starts sucking on Clinton's dick. Putin rises to power during, I think, this Chechen war. And is heavily involved in it. And then, while this is going on, Putin's rising to power, the Russians fund Trump. Then we have this wave of spyware and viruses, and we have this big antivirus revolution where, like, all these different companies are making tons of money fighting this problem, and nobody knows where the fuck it's coming from, and it's happening simultaneously as basically Putin's troll army is really first getting started. And anybody who thinks the fucking troll army started in 2013 is a moron, okay? Like you're a fucking idiot, okay? I mean, a fucking idiot. I should just, like, it'd be so much easier just to beat the shit out of somebody that's stupid than to actually explain it to them. So that's my preferred method of approaching that. I don't even want to fucking think on that demeaningly low of a level to try to explain such a simple fucking concept to you. That the troll army isn't a new thing. Putin had trolls on AOL. Putin had trolls on every single major news website in the comments sections and in the live chats and everywhere else they could fucking insert themselves into public opinion. Because Americans had, like, you know, booty calls to make and drugs to find and shit. Like, we didn't... the American public were mistaken for, like, those old men who send letters, you know? I'm gonna write them a letter. Why'd you stop making this? I've been using it for 20 years. Okay? I'm that guy. I'm totally that guy. But most people aren't that guy. But public opinion started being affected in the late 90s because it was being perceived by reporters as existing public opinion. Now, sure, maybe a few fucking people would agree with the Russian trolls and like the shit they were saying. Obviously, when Fox News came around, you had a televised version of Rush Limbaugh with many different faces. And false Christianity, religious hypocrisy, lukewarmism was just pumped into fucking people's brains. And that's when this wave of con artist conservative, you know, the difference between convince and persuade is the difference between a conservative and someone who's interested in conservation. I mean, you're not conserving shit when you're just basically selfish, greedy, corrupt assholes. Anyways. So then, while the troll war started, the virus war started, you also had this bullshit antitrust thing that continued all the way till after 9/11 against Microsoft, America's strongest corporation. And you might note that even though Google is supposedly technically more profitable, that it's still Microsoft that we rely on where it matters. It's just like the old saying goes with PC building. You want you a nice gaming computer? You want to watch DVDs and play video games and music? Get yourself a nice video card and NVIDIA chipset. And once you actually started having paired NVIDIA co-processors, oh, it was beautiful. But no matter how good even SLI got, if you want to make a reliable workstation, or if you want to make a server, or if you want to make just an office computer that's going to have limited media and gaming capabilities, but just never fuck up, you go with an Intel motherboard, Intel Pentium processor. And now that's the same thing with Microsoft. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the same thing with security. If I could choose to work with anybody to develop my technology, it'd be Intel and Microsoft. But naturally, I have many plans for this. I don't think I would ever tell you the best one. No, I'm going to tell you the good enough one. The one that would be good enough to make me a billionaire. Just know that I wouldn't have told you that plan unless I had just thought of something better. So yeah, Microsoft and Intel. Spectacular. Can I think of somebody better? Oh yeah, I can think of a few people better. I can think of someone better. And I can think of people smaller that I could get together to do the job. And then I can think of somebody medium-sized, several people that are medium-sized, who would jump all over it. But alas, I do believe in casting a wide net on both sides of the boat. So wherever the fish come up, that's where the sandbar is. Anyways. So, when you persuade someone, you know, the difference between persuading someone and convincing someone. To be coercive, to threaten someone. The word persuasion is only used sarcastically, right? It's funny to say, yeah, I persuaded them with a 2x4. No, you convince them. You can convince someone with leverage. You can convince someone by force. Because you're just making them go with you. See, convincing is more about the result. It's making them, their viewpoint with yours. Okay? It's not agreement. It's not persuasion. Persuasion is when you have a fact-based debate and you win and you persuade someone that your idea was in fact the right idea or way to go or whatever. You persuade them that it's a good deal on whatever you're trying to sell, you know, something like that. You persuade someone to give you a ride somewhere for gas money. You convince someone by making them feel bad or holding them at gunpoint. You're going to be funny, you can say you persuaded them, right? Nuanced difference between those two words. Persuasion is about getting an actual agreement. Convincing someone is just getting someone to go along with it. Con. A con artist convinces. Now, con in Latin is a phrase meaning with. And in Spanish, it simply just means with. And communism means the ideological practice of sharing weapons, sharing authority, sharing sticks, basically. Mooney. M-U-N-I. Same as munitions. Ammunition. Municipality. So communism and imperialism are in many ways synonymous, because it's basically Borg-like assimilation. Communism, okay, just like those coincidences of timing regarding those very significant and similar people, and how they connect, and how these major events connect, how the connection between those events reveals all of the necessary truth to your survival, the very truth that will set you free, is right there in noticing the pattern of those events, those significant events, and finding the connection. Which basically means having your head far enough out of your ass to be able to see through the bullshit. It's not something that's, you know, it doesn't take some complex pattern analysis talent, right? It's like, oh, two biggest fuckers in all of history happened at the same time 2,000 years ago. The other two most significant people we learn about in history both happen to die at the same time, or around the same time. That's statistically anomalous. And so is, and all of those things that I said about those things also apply to the fact that communism comes from the same place that the Horde was. And the Horde was called the Khanate. So you have Khanate and then communism from the same place. And communism was essentially the same ideology as the Khanate. Very interesting. So anyway. Looks like I logged on a little early for the usual crowd. Should be the middle of the night over in Ireland and still. Workday hours in Australia, I suppose. Or I guess it might be like 5 a.m. or something like that in Ireland. Early in the morning. About fucking noon in Australia. Dingo. Cut it out. Dingo. Tell you what. Fucking CRV is awesome. When you live in a fucking mud bog like I do, an all-wheel drive CRV is a good little vehicle to have. You know, I'm not trying to go off-roading and shit. It's just when off-roading comes to me, I need to be prepared. And the CRV's got just enough capability. You can't switch it on or nothing. It happens on its own. It usually drives front-wheel drive. The rear wheels only happen when the front wheels start to slip. It's not super handling or anything. It's just uses a combination of the differential split to induce oversteer, but not too much. But it's not like anything with variable power applied specifically to that wheel or anything. It is, however, the system that helped Honda come up with that. So it's just a less advanced version of the same super handling all-wheel drive system. Just without the independent clutching. But with some good grippy tires like I got on there, my wife came home, just pulled right up on the shit. Just get up on the big dirt mound. Who cares if a fucking tire sink a little bit? That thing will just come right out of there. It's hard to even get it to make a rut with the front wheels. I think if I could buy a bunch of those older CRVs, not the ones with the electronic throttle that came later. I'm talking the older, proper ones. Once they put the electronic throttle on there, then you see the CRV fail videos. That's a generation that it assumes that you know how to drive. So if you sit there and drive it like a soccer mom, it's not going to work too well. Or if you try to drive it like you're one of those off-road people who wants to test and see what your truck can do, yeah, it's not going to work like that. It's made to go through the fucking thing, you know? The way either a belligerent soccer mom would do it, or the way somebody who knows that they weren't in a fucking 4x4 would do it. It's designed to just give you that little extra help. But it's not, let's go right in the middle of the mud or right in the middle of the uphill and stop and then see if it slides back. No, it'll slide backwards. You gotta keep going, man. That's all about your tires. All-wheel drive just helps you keep that momentum up. It helps you use all four of your tires, no matter what their individual grip capability is. House Republicans say no votes expected on the government shutdown. That's fucked up, man. Anyway. Oh look, a pirated Rachel Maddow stream. That's monetized. And skipping ad. Wilson Tran Gaming TV, 12,000 views. Streamed live 4 hours ago. Computerized, monetized Russian bots. Stealing from American companies. Let's check out their channel some, shall we? So they have premiering now status right there. Premiering now. That, of course, a feature added immediately after they stopped monetizing my channel. That and paid ads were re-enabled right after they stopped monetizing my channel. 1 month. Look at this. Look at this. 16 hours ago. No views, no views, no views, no views. 4 views. 22 views, 54 views, 28 views. 22 views, 42 views, 79 views. 10 watching. 3 watching. Not registering. 2 views. This be the troll factory in India? Then again, judging by font tricks doesn't say much. $12,000 views. No views. 40 views, 50 views, 70 views. 12,000 views. See what I mean by they just have these bot channels enabled. And they steal money from American companies and then disappear. YouTube helps it happen. Yes, the Aussie accent is very difficult now that people stop confusing it with Welsh. You know, Cornish? Anyways, I suppose I might restart and just wait a while and do a hangout. In the meantime, I'm going to get back to my corporate shadow empire planning shit. You know, it's very interesting how quickly Google can get into non-competitive business practices by continuing to suppress a stream from somebody with objectively brilliant business ideas. Objectively brilliant ideas across the board, in fact. But when it comes to, say, someone seeking investment or personnel, or a marketable audience, I don't care what I have to do. You fuckers are gonna pay for this. And there's only one way to avoid the consequences. Repent. Thanks for watching, whoever winds up watching.